Let me see. Welcome one and all. Yeah, let's pop out the old chat here. Let's get things up and running. Okay. Okay, we're looking good, feeling good. Who's with us? Let me see if I can also pull up our multi-chat. Nice, nice. Okay. Also, I can somebody see, are we on Twitter? I keep saying that I should be. Let me see. I think it's in broadcast settings. Let's see, stream elements, edit widget. Is it activity feed, stream elements, multi-streaming? No, it says I'm not on X right now, but let me try to turn on X. Let's see. Let's see. I think we're on X. Welcome, guys. I really appreciate you guys. You know, primarily we're here to answer your questions. All right. It seems to think that we're still doing Arc Raiders stuff. We're not doing Arc Raiders on Twitch, but oh, there you go. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. All right. Welcome, guys. Really appreciate you guys. I see you guys. Yeah, we're going down the rabbit hole, baby. Yeah. So let's see. Am I even on Twitch? I don't even know, man. Everything is so goofed up in this live stream. I'm just not sure. So okay, there we go. I see we're live. I love this. Hell yeah. Am I even on Twitch? I don't even know, man. Everything is so goofed up in this live stream. I'm just not sure. Let's see. I know you guys can like hear me streaming myself. Nice, nice. Okay. Well, oh, nice. I can see the chat. Can somebody on Twitch or Twitter, excuse me, like drop a chat in the chat or whatever? I'm so curious to see, because I finally can see you guys, right? And we are here to talk again about and answer your questions on this. And we are here to talk. Okay, nice. And it literally still says I'm streaming Arc Raiders on Twitch. That is very cool. But let's fix that. Yes, war. Okay, we are category. Believe it or not, this is not an Arc Raiders live stream. All right, let's see. I guess this is politics and war. Yeah, that's probably what it is. Okay. Calpurnius, thanks for $2. Sai, here we go again. Bro, I know. Believe me, dude. Believe me. This is the thing I did not want to have happen. And why? Well, if you guys have seen the video, you probably have a sense of why already. The why is that there's so many parallels with two conflicts that worry me, because we're not doing anything visibly different. The first is with Iraq, in which, right, we were told, and you guys in chat are just blowing it up. You guys in chat know that Iraq, we said, hey, George Bush, he was confident that he could turn Iraq from a hostile anti-U.S. country to a pro-U.S. ally in the mold of, say, Jordan or Saudi Arabia, right? But democratic. And so he goes to the American people. The American people aren't going to just be like, hey, invade a random country because they're not democratic enough. Because, well, if that's your metric, then we'd have to invade essentially entire continents worth of people, right? And if that's a problem, again, you know. And so he says, Bush goes to the American people and says, actually, guys, Iraq is uniquely bad because they have weapons of mass destruction. And the funny thing is that he never specified what those were, right? Weapons of mass destruction can be nuclear, biological, chemical weapons, all kinds of things. And but then his argument was not, here's what they have. The argument was he could have them, or he may have them, or it might be happening. It's a lot of coulda, could be, should be, ought to be, possibly. That was the argument. And the result was a 20-year plus quagmire conflict that never really achieved a resolution, right? It basically went from 2003 to like 2009, 10. The U.S. withdrew from Iraq, but then was literally back in Iraq like 18 months later because to fight ISIS, the emerging ISIS. And so then we had to destroy the caliphate, and it honestly, the cost to the U.S. was probably millions, I mean trillions of dollars, right? So and what did we achieve? We basically expanded Iranian influence. And so that I see and I go, hey, this sort of thing that was a disaster, right? So we should not do that again. Well, that's what we're doing in Iran. We're going to regime change them, and they could have a nuclear weapon. They might, they ought to. Again, the president himself is like, either you annihilated your nuclear program 6 months ago, but then we have to fight them and go to war again. Well, okay, even if we annihilate their nuclear program again, are we going to have to do this again in 6 months? Is this just going to be mowing the grass? Are we going to have to just bomb Iranians forever? Right? You see how problematic this is. This isn't a solution. This is just torturing people. Like, it's not like I'm like, oh, Iran should have a nuclear weapon. But it's not clear that the United States has the tools to stop it. And again, Trump himself says, oh, well, it's not about, he could one day in the future be able to target the United States. But then he, in his News Nation, in his speech, he says, well, it's about defending our European allies. And you go, well, wait, you hate our European allies. And the European allies, when you ask them, they don't see Iran and its nuclear program as a pressing threat. They see Russia as a pressing threat. And the Europeans have said the U.S. doesn't want to defend us against Russia. So who are we defending? Exactly. The answer is fairly obvious. It's, Trump makes no secret of the fact that he is considers himself a staunch defender of Israel. And this is what this is about, the state of Israel, right? And so, again, maybe you think this is the best use of the U.S. military, that American lives are worth defending a small Middle Eastern country who's, maybe not. But to be clear, there are other countries that also benefit from this. Saudi Arabia, notably, hates Iran and views Iran as a massive regional rival. And so, yeah, I see that stuff. And it's one of those things where you're like, hey, man, this is a bad economy. This is a really tough time to be an American. There's a lot of internal problems. The president himself has said that the U.S. military's actual mission is protecting the homeland from the internal threat. And don't get me wrong, the U.S. military should be focused on external threats. But this is just further evidence of like, whatever Trump says his policy is, Trump doesn't have a policy. He doesn't even have interests. He has things which interest him. Okay, I see some questions here. Joshua, thanks for the 2. He says, we're getting some. Yeah, but I would rather see the U.S. military get some against threats to the American people or to our interests or threats to our like more direct threats to our allies, real threats. Like Iran, again, like speculatively, they might have a nuclear weapon. Again, I'm like, Iran is not good. They're a state sponsor of terrorism. They sponsor all of these groups. Trump correctly says they killed a lot of Americans in Iraq. I don't really want good things to happen to them. I just worry what we're getting, basically. I worry what we're getting, and I worry when we try to embark on these campaigns with unclear purposes and unclear durations, right? If you told me, hey, we're going to go to war and we're going to destroy every IRGC splinter group in the world, okay, sure. Or we're going to support every government that's at war with them. Okay, that's like a real objective. But this whole, like, we're just going to bomb Iran and stop them from getting nukes, even though our bombs appear to be able to, at best, delay a nuclear program, 6 months? It's just, this isn't a real objective. We don't have a strategic end. We don't have an operational objective. And as a result, we're tactically a mess. Okay. Shokete, thanks for the $20 Canadian. That's what, like $4 American? I'm just kidding. Thanks. Your reporting's been great. Thank you. Keep it up. Well, I get the need to curb Iran's nuclear ambitions. Is this just risking Americans to cover up your president being I'm going to change that to Epstein affiliate. And we know what that means. How many vets support this guy? How did so many vets support this guy? I give them, so the actual answer is that the culture, one, Trump 1 and Trump 2 behave very, very differently, but also Trump, the Democrat, like, basically Trump had a good marketing department. That's the answer. He went on podcasts like the Sean Ryan show. He went on the Joe Rogan show, places that have a lot of cachet with veterans. And he came down and met them on their level. He talks in a way that they understand. Again, the problem, like the ideology that underpins what he claims to do, i.e. America first, I think is actually good. The question is, how do you advocate for an America first? What does America first look like? And again, is tariffing our own citizens America first? Probably not. Is ending foreign wars overseas that cost, 20% of our GDP in a given year, right? Is that America first? No. Is sending large tranches of aid to military assistance to other countries, is that America first? It could be. It depends, right? But you have to define American interests, and then you have to act on those. And ultimately, it's frustrating to Americans when we say, hey, you're capable of supporting Ukraine in their fight against Russia, but you're not capable of stopping my healthcare costs from doubling or tripling, right? To say, hey, I understand the frustration and I understand the frustration that vets feel. I feel it too, man. I feel it too. Again, when it costs me $12,000 per kid to bring them into the world with insurance, yeah, I understand when you go, hey, man, that $80 billion to Ukraine, that $50 billion to Israel, this $100 billion campaign to blow up Iranians, you go, hey, man, when is some of that money going to make it a little bit cheaper for me to have a kid, I get that frustration. I think that's what a lot of vets feel, especially given the fact that we're like, hey, we spent $1 trillion in Afghanistan, and what did it get us? It got us fuck all, right? It got us 2,000 dead American soldiers and a generation of soldiers maimed, and for the Taliban to return to power. Louis VR, thanks for the 5. Best channel, glad I found it. Let's see. Whoa. Okay. And thanks, Bear Cub Daycare. What are the chances other Middle Eastern states get involved? I think actually really low, because again, these states understand, why would you risk your people in a fight that the Americans can carry by themselves? And again, to me, that's a classic one, except for the Israelis. The Israelis are a Middle Eastern state, and they are directly involved. But again, Jordan, Oman, Dubai, I don't think they're going to be involved. Trump literally said the thing, quote, some of you may die and it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. That is Epstein client peak energy to say, hey, yes, of course, sure. That is to me, that is the Epstein client class defined is, yeah, sure, it's traumatizing to those women and girls, but hey, I got to get my rocks off, and I'm a famous, smart billionaire genius. So so their suffering is just a mildly inconvenient side effect to make my more important life marginally better. Just like Trump says, listen, it's really important that Israel likes me personally. And if American soldiers die, fuck them. And I hate that, right? If you're going to kill Americans as a president, you need to have a justification, and you have to like make that case to the American people. Franco, $5. This is an Israel war. We're having a war because of Israel. That is the only other country who has the most clear security threat from Iran, right? The Europeans themselves don't view Iran as that much of a threat. Iran doesn't really pose a threat. I mean, Hamas has conducted exactly zero terror attacks on the United States. It's the only country that has a pressing threat from Iran. And again, Iran, for 30 years, the Israelis have been saying Iran totally is just days away from a bomb. The fact that Steve Witkoff uncritically echoed that is a joke. Yeah, I don't have any other really good explanation. Okay, could this invasion be caused by someone trying to drain the U.S. military before a Taiwan invasion? I think it has that effect. I don't know if it is. Yeah, I don't know how accurate or true that is. Hold on. I think I'm going to stop this on Twitch. We don't have that many viewers, and I see you guys that it is. I see that it's. Yeah, I see that it's really draining the bandwidth. Let's see. Is the bandwidth a little improved? But yeah. So I really think the Canadian 5. Yeah, 100%. And I'll tell you this, guys. There's been so many videos of U.S. bases getting penetrated by Iranian Shaheds, Iranian ballistic missiles, that it's worrying. I worried less about ballistic missiles. Like, I get it. Ballistic missiles, really hard to intercept, very expensive to intercept. It's not clear we don't have infinity interceptors. But when I see a Shahed taking out U.S. facilities, that's troubling, because a Shahed flies only slightly, it flies no faster than a commercial aircraft. And it has no radar protection. It has a totally obvious radar signature. And when those things are hitting even trivially important U.S. military sites, that worries me, because it implies that U.S. air defense systems, at least in some areas, are reduced to zero. And that's troubling. Okay, Sergeant Gunnery, thanks for the 25 RON. Just curious, why didn't the Chinese help them with air defense systems after the B-2s hit the Iranian facilities? I would say that, one, who's to say they didn't? Two, as discussed, the B-2s may have not meaningfully delayed and disrupted the Iranian nuclear program. Clearly they didn't, because, well, Trump says that the threat to the United States from Iran is immediate and pressing. It's so imminent that he can't get permission from Congress to start this war. That's how imminent the threat is. And so clearly, the Iranian defense of their nuclear program was actually robust. Let's see. Whoa. Okay. I see you guys. I'm trying to. Okay. Creatives Combine, thanks for the Australian 10. That's like 300 US dollars. I don't know. Honestly, how is the Trump administration any better than what Kamala would have been? All this fearmonger about Kamala is proven to be complete BS. Yeah, the people who are like, Kamala is going to like institute communism or whatever, that was pretty hilarious, because Biden didn't, and she considered herself a direct Biden successor. Would Kamala have struck Iran? Probably not. Like, Trump doesn't seem capable of telling the Israelis no about anything. Again, this is a guy who is trying to get the Nobel Peace Prize, but the Israelis wanted him to go to war with Iran, and he was like, yes, sir, right away, sir. He literally in his State of the Union was like, I ended 8 wars, and then immediately started an actual war, right? Because I want to point out that many of the wars he ended were inactive conflicts. Like Armenia, Azerbaijan, or whatever. 0 people had died in the last like year in that conflict. Okay, if 0 people die, it's not a war. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, it's disrespectful to the term war. You know, it's Yeah. No, I mean, like I have serious problems with Biden administration's decisions. I have serious problems with many of their policies, but they had policies. Again, what is the Trump policy? America first? Okay, well, walk me through how Iran is a threat to America. Even Trump can't really roll it out. He's like, they're a threat to our bases that are in the Middle East to deter Iran. I'm like, well, you see the self-licking ice cream cone here. Volodymyr, 5 Canadian. Toppling the regime is an absolute universal good, but knowing Trump, he'll F it up. Also, what's your take on the school kids? Yeah, I would love to see the Iranian regime replaced by a democratic system. Here's the problem. No amount of bombs dropped from aircraft, no amount of uniformed soldiers from a foreign country with guns can make a government emerge from scratch. Can render a government into the world. Ultimately, governments only work because the people believe that they are credible representations. And that's a threat of force in part, but also benefits, right? Look at the early democratic Russia, for an example. Soviet Union collapses. The whole international community says, listen, we want democracy in Russia, democracy in Russia. And they work really hard to support an organic democracy movement inside of Russia, right? It wasn't like American guns made Russia a democracy during the Yeltsin years. But even then, with all that international support, because they didn't have the ability to effectively provide basic government services, security, stable prices, a functioning healthcare system, because they couldn't do that, the Russians backed a dictator. They replaced their democracy with a dictatorship. And the fear I have is that bombs, when Trump says the Iranian people are just going to take it over and they're going to take it over in their institute of government, that has never happened. Even America's own history, we act like we booted out the British and then we built all these democratic institutions. That is not the case. The Virginia legislature was governing the colony of Virginia, independent of the crown, effectively, for 100 years. The U.S. had a century or more to evolve self-governance. And so all that happened during the American Revolution is we took the very top of our pyramid and we pushed it off and we replaced it with a federal system. And even that federal system was so bad that after 10 years, we had to push it off and we instituted the new U.S. Constitution, the thing we swear an oath to. And so we sit there and we look at 150, 200 years of self-governance. And we go, well, why can't the Iranians just do it in an afternoon? And you're like, guys, this isn't how it worked even for the American experience. It's not going to work that way for the Iranians. So yeah, and here's the problem. What would be worse? Well, you could have the Iranian, my fear would be like, what if you had a serious situation where the Iranian government becomes very weak, maybe it doesn't even control the whole country, and it's the Iranian government in a couple of regions, and then you have, let's say, warlords in different regions. Some of them are like true dyed-in-the-wool terrorists. Let's say the IRGC breaks off and doesn't have the constraint of even Khamenei and governs their own regions. Oh yeah, and all of those regions have some or all the components of a nuclear program. Do you see how incredibly problematic that would be? That would be so much worse than what we have now. And the Iranian regime is already pretty bad. That is my fear, is that you want, when all you have is a hammer, you want so badly to be able to hammer your way to every solution. But like, I could have the nicest, biggest hammer on earth, and I can't fix my PC with it. And that's what I fear the U.S. government's trying to do with its military. Again. Okay, NATO Stawa, $5 American dollars. Thank you. 2 months into 2026, 2 new wars. What a record. Venezuela, Iran, OMFG, and Mexico maybe next. Again, this is exactly what you get when you have unqualified, unthoughtful people doing it. Because there's a lot of evidence that even in Mexico, this cartel leader being killed was enabled by the U.S. military and the U.S. government. And again, I'm all about helping our allies, but there's a reason that the Mexican government doesn't kill its cartel leaders, and it's not because they can't find them. It's because of shit like this. And so again, you think things through, and you want so badly to believe that you can kill your way to peace. You want it to be the case, but it just isn't, right? Venezuela, yeah, okay, we took out Maduro, but the regime is so intact. So it's hard to say. Did we win that war? No, we kind of lost, right? We said we were going to capture the regime. We were going to institute a new regime, that Trump is in charge of the country. Trump is not in charge of the country. The regime is firmly intact. So that sounds kind of like losing a war. Like, just because you did one thing and then gave up and went home doesn't mean you won. Billy Bob Bench, thanks to the 50. Is it too late to put the imperial presidency back in the box? Can Congress reclaim its war authority? What would it take? Cheers. Congress could reclaim its war authority tomorrow. But ultimately what it's going to take is American voters need to make Trump radioactive, and Trump-backed candidates. Once Trump becomes radioactive and American voters reject him and a direct association with him, Congress will change their tune. This is both the benefit and the problem with having these like valueless ghouls running Congress, is that the only thing they really care about is remaining in power. And the upside is that they remain in power by winning elections. So ultimately, I think the more he does shit like this, every person has their limit, right? My wife had a bunch of her research funding cut at her institution, where she works as among other things, a researcher. And she was like, F this guy. Not that we ever were like supporters of him, but there were people who were Trump supporters who were like, oh, F this guy, right? He hurt me. And again, if you're somebody that understands the uselessness of these Middle Eastern wars, you're going to look at this and go, F this guy, right? So every time he does shit like this, if you're somebody that, I don't know, cares about whether or not American kids get trafficked and molested, you're like, hey man, wow, other countries seem to be able to arrest and charge Epstein clients. And yet America just can't seem to do it. We just can't seem to find anyone. We haven't checked the Commerce Department, but who knows? So again, I think we as voters, that's our opportunity. B. Gresley, thanks for the 20. What's his strategy to attack a whole country, 2 aircraft carriers, without boots on the ground? Also, what about a nuke as retaliation from Iran? Well, Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. That's sort of the point. 2 aircraft carriers, no boots on the ground. That's why it might be performative. It's a very expensive performance. I think that's the most likely outcome. I would say 70% odds. This is just a performance. We bomb Iran for a week. Trump loses interest. He needs to switch the news cycle. Iran fires back. The fear is that if Iran successfully kills a large or medium number of U.S. troops, then Trump can't just bomb them and high five and go home. That's the fear, is that once we start seeing dead Americans in caskets, we're going to have to sit there and be like, oh, well, now we have to win, or else we're going to have a bunch of bodies and we're going to be like, oh, we lost, right? But no, there's no real strategy. Mike Grace, Jedi Dad, thanks for becoming a member. Biggest concern about the conflict? My biggest concern about the conflict is the like total is the destabilization but not collapse of the regime, right? And the reason that worries me so much is because, like, right now, a destabilized Iran, where let's say the government controls a couple of key cities, but maybe a warlord type faction emerges in rural provinces, or maybe the IRGC sort of claims that they are the rightful governors of the country, and you have like parts of the country governed by a military dictatorship, and they're kind of in conflict with each other as well as with the larger region. That's going to create a refugee crisis that makes Syria look like a baseball game getting out early. It's going to absolutely infuriate all the neighboring countries. It's going to create a huge refugee crisis, again, that makes Syria look like a minor league baseball game getting out. And not only will you not have stopped the nuclear program, but you will have actually placed the components of a nuclear program in potentially even more extreme factions. That is my number one fear. That is my worst case scenario. Martin Rossi, 50, thanks, fellow SICE grad here. Fuck yeah. Love your hustle analysis. Do you think the DoD was given all the time they wanted to prepare, or did the admin force the timeline? 100% admin forced the timeline. And we know this because they leaked to so many different outlets, the Pentagon did, that they basically wanted to cover their ass, to be like, listen, we really don't want this. We really don't think we're ready. We really don't think this is a good idea. And I mean, Trump staffed this with hawks hawks and loyalists that do not tell him no. And so they are only going to tell him no if they are literally they know they are going to disappoint him. Yeah, the admin forces timeline. Plus, Trump doesn't want to start a war that's ongoing going into the midterms. He really doesn't want this. And we've talked about the fact that, again, his own Department of Defense, he just told them in his national security strategy, he said, homeland focus on defending the homeland. The enemy from within, that's the real threat. So, and also then he's like, but we also deter China, and we're also not deterring Russia. That's Europe's problem. But then to turn around within basically days and say, oh, but by the way, we're going to have a massive air campaign against Iraq or Iran. You're just like, that is all the hallmarks of a forced timeline. Okay, Chillmaster, thanks for the 10. According to Wall Street Journal, his advisors were hesitant to taking resources away when they're trying to focus on China. If China were to invade now, would be golden while we're focused on Iran. Yeah, the problem is China also probably needs like 6 months to prepare for an invasion. They can't just snap invade. And given Xi's purges of key leadership, they may actually feel that China has damaged its own readiness to a greater degree than the U.S. damages its readiness with this war in Iran. So by the time the China restabilizes their CMC, the thinking was, hey, the U.S. will be able to replenish its stockpiles. That's my theory on what they're saying. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think Xi's personal desire for command and his personal ego means that who's going to tell him that China's not ready? Again, I think this 2027 goal, I think 2027 is when I would worry. I don't think it's going to happen. It's not going to happen this week. It's not going to happen next week. It's not going to happen in 3 weeks. That I can tell you for sure. But it would be a good opportunity, but China just isn't in a position to take it. Mr. Iron Knight, I despise the Ayatollah, but given that we overthrew the democratically elected PM in the 50s, the Shaddam we put was so corrupt, and we get the 79 revolution. Oh, the Shah was, and then we got the Ayatollah. We learn nothing. Yeah, I think the failure in the 50s was that we really had a sense that like democratic systems are like a dice roll, that, oh, you could elect a friend or an enemy. And when we realize is that actually with the right set of incentives, democracies almost never elect crazies. Not never, but it's rarer and harder, right? And again, that's why we kind of said, hey, listen, we are going to make it really like we're going to use our cultural and economic and to a lesser extent military might to support democracies, because as long as countries remain democratic, we can actually deal with them fairly well. Like we can have fairly good relations. When they become undemocratic, that's the actual dice roll. And that was sort of the failure in the 1950s, was that they thought that international communism, once they won an election, that they would permanently take over a country. But that just wasn't really even how it happened in those countries. Countries didn't really have that like vote for communists and then the communists seize power. It just never really happened, right? It was always communist military occupation, invasion, dictators that declare themselves communists, that sort of thing. So yeah, again, regime change just doesn't work. And it's really hard. You feel like you spend all this money on a military. It's like buying a Ferrari and then complaining that you're still late to work. It's like the Ferrari it can get you faster down a roadway, but it can't make red lights into green lights. It can't stop traffic from backing up on I-35 or whatever, on I-95. Like it can't do those things. Even though you're like, but I bought a Ferrari. Do I need a faster car? And at some point you have to go, no, it's just not possible. Sharpie, thanks for the 2. Keeps me in truth to power. Damn, you guys are chiming in. Cody Chase, thanks for the become a member. Okay, So yeah, let's see some of the updates here that I think are interesting. Iran's message to the United Nations: all American and Israeli bases, facilities, and assets in the region are legitimate targets. That is how war works. I know when you guys asked about the school, I mean, my heart breaks when kids are victimized by war. I truly believe that the U.S. absolutely does its best to target military facilities. Having been in the U.S. military, we worked really hard not to let that happen. And the Iranians definitely will absolutely exploit that. Exploit anytime there's a strike like this. That said, this is a problem with air power. Air power is just not that precise when you don't have people on the ground. You're relying on satellite images, you're relying on radio intercepts, you're relying on cell phone data, and in a dense city, it can be really hard. And yeah, it's a risk that you run. And again, a more thoughtful, more planning-oriented military would absolutely do something differently, right? A different military would have absolutely operated differently. And the fact is that this, I think, was not as well planned out as it should have been. Blunderboy, thanks for the 20. Russia and Trump have good relations. Russia and Iran have good relations. Any guesses of what is actually happening behind the scenes? Tacit approval from Russia. I think this is a classic example of you have interests, not friends. Iran massively supports Russia, right? The Shahed drone is a Russian design or an Iranian design provided to and essentially licensed to Russia. And again, one of my worst case scenarios for this situation is that Iranian Shaheds get manufactured in Russia at scale, and that Russia is happy to give the Iranians, enough to throw 500, 1,000 Shaheds a day at U.S. bases, at U.S. aircraft carrier groups, and that the U.S. shoots them down until they can't, right? When you're talking about, I mean, think about it. You're an aircraft carrier group. How long can you shoot down 100 Shaheds a day coming at you, right? Maybe you can shoot them down for 5 days, for 10 days. But like, do you really think they have 1,000 interceptor missiles? No, the ship literally wouldn't float. So I think the Russians love the fact the U.S. military is distracted. They love the fact that the U.S. military is engaged somewhere else. They love the fact that the U.S. is further isolating itself diplomatically. And yeah, I think they know that there is not going to be real regime change here. I think that Russia is going to continue to support the Iranian regime in ways that are low cost but high effect for Russia, in order to improve their chances of victory in Ukraine. Yeah, what does Russia get out of it? Russia gets a weakened and distracted America, right? And in America, by the way, as we talked about, every interceptor that's deployed in the Middle East is an interceptor that cannot, by definition, go to Ukraine. So it's going to make the Russian strikes that much more effective, like directly. Now, again, right, Iranian media explosions heard in Karaj, west of the capital. Reportedly, VHF broadcasts have been transmitting that, according to multiple company security officers, the Strait of Hormuz has been closed. This is a huge problem. Several major oil companies and trading houses suspended oil and fuel shipments through the Strait of Hormuz. And I mean, you could see here that basically, absolutely key oil export facilities. It's a huge problem, man. Billy Bob Bench, thanks for becoming a member. Yeah. So again, I mean, you can see here how here's Dubai. You can see all these air defenses just absolutely deploying 4 or 5 hours ago. Dubai, all flights suspended. Yeah, and UAE is like, what are you guys doing? We are not part of this. And this is sort of I think the Iranians are really trying to enter a I'm not really sure what the strategy is other than like punish other Middle Eastern nations for aligning with the United States, right? Israel, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, all of these countries, Iran is like, listen, we just want to Ukraine you, basically. Yeah. Yeah, Baba, Shaggy Baba. Yep, I've made so many videos. I've been beating this drum so hard that we're not behind on drone tech per se. We're behind on drone scale, right? Like we said, if you're using $1 million interceptor to take out a $30,000 Shahed, well, if they can purchase 10, 15 times as many Shaheds as you have interceptors, you're going to be screwed. And I really, really, really worry because, again, there are video now of Shaheds getting through. Not 6 months from now, not 6 weeks from now, not after the interceptors have all been depleted, but like today, you know? Yeah, tech is fine, procurement is good. But here's the thing to remember. Tech and procurement are linked. Because and you know, Palmer Luckey, he is at least able to talk a game, right? He had a viral clip where he said, listen, he goes, in World War II, the Sherman tank, like the Americans could have built a tank as good as a German Tiger tank. There was no technical reason we couldn't, but we needed something that could be built in existing American automobile plants. And we said, hey, the Sherman can do that. And he's like, listen, it was as precise as how strong a steel armor can existing presses press into shape. How can it be treated? How hard can you get the steel with American coal, right? Does it use too much or too little steel? Does it use the right number of ball bearings, the right sizes of things? All of that stuff makes a huge difference. And so that is the mentality in the era of the drone that you have to have about your own drones. You got your own automated war machines. And the fact that we don't do that, we continue to sit there and go, listen, what is the best air interceptor we can build? Build them, build as many as we can. But the problem with the best in the world, it's like telling you, buy as many Lamborghinis as you can buy. Well, that answer is like 1, maybe 2 if you've been saving for retirement. And that's it. But like, if instead you say, listen, buy as many Toyotas as you can buy, you're talking about 15, 20, right? I mean, look at any business. Every business knows this. You don't buy your fleet of auto detailing vehicles. You don't buy Lamborghinis, right? You buy Sprinter vans, right? You buy cheap Sprinter vans and you field 100 of them because the parts are easy to replace. They're easily converted, they are reliable, and they're cheap. You can afford them, right? And so that's my fear with US procurement, is that it's became so gee whiz tech dependent that it failed to appreciate just how scaled things can be. Yeah, AI drones for sure. But again, AI drones only work if you're planning on scaling them, Not David. Well, U.S. has all the corn. Make corn-based drones. Yeah, exactly. I mean, okay. I that's pretty funny, but also that's the basic thinking that you have to start seeing, is to say, what do we do and what can we make well and at scale, and then do that. So let's see. I'm just gonna take a look to see if there's footage we can do a quick review of. We're going to sort by new. Okay, the Iowa political passport, thanks for the 2. And the sick lemon emoji, I love it. Corn-based drones, corn with a K, I love it. Yeah, so again, there's reportedly a girls' elementary school that was struck. Tragic, breaks your heart. Okay, here, is footage of a Shahed hitting a high rise. Let's see if I can show you guys this on a frame by frame, and you understand why this is so concerning, right? So there you go. There's a high rise. Oh, okay. I don't think that's a Shahed, my guy. Shaheds don't like. Yeah, that's not a Shahed. That's a ballistic missile. I hate mislabeled stuff. And I said that's in Bahrain. Oh, here we go. Here it is. Here is a different high rise being hit by being indeed hit by a Shahed. There it is. See it? There's a Shahed slamming into a random high rise. This is classic Shahed stuff. And I hope you guys understand this is about punishing all U.S. allies. Yeah, this is, I see stuff like this and I think, man, this is a sign of real issues with air defenses. Again, you have to understand, it is not hard to shoot down a Shahed. I mean, the Ukrainians do it with fucking machine guns, with dudes and machine guns. And the fact that, again, here's ballistic missiles coming in over Dubai, right? And we saw this, you know, the Iranians did hit parts of Tel Aviv when they struck it. Like, they did have ballistic missiles hit Israel, but we're just not seeing. Yeah, there it is getting intercepted. You can just barely see it. There you go. There's more of these getting taken out. Yeah, I worry because, again, we sent a bunch of Patriots to Israel that should be defending our own people, and seeing our own people not get protected is tough. Pope Verse, yeah, thanks for the 5. How do I feel about kites as a drone defense? I can afford one more super chat or a pack of gum. How do you want to take my pennies? Listen, if you are that close to your budget, I don't want either. Truly. The gum is a nice to have. So are the super chats. I don't want money you don't have to spend. So just you know, keep it in your account, man. Keep it in your pocket. You know, emergencies happen, and save it for that, man. Plus up your emergency fund. Be smart. Again, I appreciate all you guys that do help me out. Again, your direct support is the reason I don't have to kowtow and kiss the ass of corporate sponsors. It makes a huge difference. But again, just, I don't want your last dollar. I don't want you guys to ever make a trade-off between things like food or healthcare or insurance or gas, anything that I never want to take that money. Kites as a drone defense. My issue is that kites, like, it has to do with the angle of attack, right? And so if the Shaheds fly high, you see a lot of them have this attack that's coming straight down, where kites would be minimally effective. I've heard of people using like balloons in World War II, but it's the same sort of problem. They'd have to be either unbelievably high, or they'd have to find some way to like move and track with the Shahed as it drops down. Again, it's like trees. Trees are more effective. Trees are only slightly larger than a kite, and they are an okay defense. Does this have Putin playbook vibes of a special military operation that's only going to take a few days? Actually, I mean, no, because a ground invasion a ground invasion of a country where you own, like, no, because ultimately going into a country with troops and then leaving that country is way harder and totally different conundrum versus attacking a country where you have dominance over the skies and you can stop at any time, right? And that's what we have over Iran. We have like air dominance. Okay, wait, let me see. I got to check these things. Iranian ballistic missile shot down over central Israel. Again, we're seeing the Israelis have effective air defenses. And I'm not saying like nobody has no air defenses. I'm seeing a lot more. You see how high up that is, right? You see how high that intercept is? I mean, it's so high that it's literally, the explosion looks different. Again, that I think is the thing to take away. But yeah, you can see, I mean, this shit, if you want to know what bothers me, is that Congress sent Israel a whole bunch of air defenses, and you can see here they are being deployed in Israel and defending Tel Aviv. American bases, though, get fucking smoked. That shit, I'm kind of like, hey, what the fuck, man? Like, I'm sorry. But like Israel's what, the 15th largest economy in the world? They can open up their pocketbook and they can build their own interceptors. Hurricane OG, when you say bombard U.S. with shed drones, can't U.S. target launch locations? Like you have to get them in position to launch, right? I don't know how these drones are launched. So here, let me see if I can find this for you, and you'll see the problem. Let's see. No. Let's see if we can find it. Okay, so let's see if I can show you guys the launch platform, and I'll show you guys just how hard this stuff is. Yeah, here we go. This is how compact these launch sites are. That's a launcher. This thing, a fucking truck, a flatbed truck in a container. So assume in a given country, anywhere near a port, you've got, you know, hundreds, maybe thousands of trucks that look exactly like this. And just one of them, they park and they launch all these shaheads out of the truck with a little rocket assist. And here's another example of a launch platform. It's just it's so small. I mean, you could launch this out of a large pickup. That's the hard part. These launch sites don't exist, and then suddenly they do. Yeah, here it is launching, right? This little rocket assist. That's the hard part of targeting launch sites, is that the launch sites, you could turn an empty lot, not even a lot, you could turn an empty stretch of highway into a launch site in probably 60 minutes. So that's kind of the fear here. Okay, Volodymyr 5, thanks for the 5. Is the U.S. in a position where if it backs away, it will lose its allies in the Middle East? They will see the U.S. as a risk instead of an ally. Yeah, that's a huge problem. Yeah. Our U.S. allies support us, and the U.S. has an obligation to like protect them and not lead them into a war that's going to make them unpopular with their people. Remember, these aren't democratic regimes, and so without without a democracy, you still need, even if you're not a democracy, you still have to kiss your people's ass. You still need to make sure you have a certain level of popularity with people. Okay, Crypthound, thanks for the 20. I just read a report that says Strait of Hormuz may be closed. We just actually took a look at that report. I saw the same thing. Will it impact fuel prices? In fact, let's take a look. All right, let's look at oil futures. So oil futures, per likely price of oil, as you can see, steady climb since this has happened, and you can see it's gone from 65 to 67. It's at a 3% spike. Sorry, that's over the last 6 months. In the last 24 hours, we've seen a 3% spike, including, a spike and then a steady climb. So this is probably the Strait of Hormuz being closed when they thought it was inevitable, right? And then, yeah, so crude oil futures steadily climbing. I think there's your answer. Okay, if you have concerns about the gum or the subscription process, and you can't get it on the website, you can always email dan@strikegum.com, and he'll make sure you get canceled. Please make more flavors, though. Yes, we are piloting a new flavor. I'm testing it right now with like friends and family, and they are like, we love it. They're like, it is better than your original flavor by far. I'm shocked. So new flavor coming, guys. New flavor coming. I think. Again, we're in our tariff era. It's a slow economy, but we're gonna do it, right? Okay, and reportedly here, according to the Kuwaiti army, 3 members of their armed forces sustained minor injuries as a result of missile and drone attacks on the Ali Al Salim air base. Okay, interesting. Esoteric, thanks for the €2. Fun fact, not all cats meow. Nice. Oh yeah, I wonder what the S&P 500 futures look like. Let's see. Futures. This is basically US. Looks like we priced in war with Iran. It's all priced in, baby. There's our 1-day chart. Here's our 1-week chart. You can see it's just coming off that high. Right? So there's your answer. What about the Dow? Is the Dow over 50,000? Because if it's over 50,000, molesting kids is legal. No, it's not. Oh, man, it's still illegal. It's still illegal for billionaires to traffic kids. Just kidding. It's fully legal no matter what the Dow is. That's the official Justice Department policy, right? Here it is, 2008. This is when Epstein started. As you can see, guys, from his first conviction to now, the Dow is just absolutely ripping, because of the billionaire satanic. Never mind. I'm going to get demonetized. Well, I wonder if gold's going up. That's a good question. All right. Gold up a little bit. Whoa, over 5,000, but not a little off its peak, but not by much, lads. Not by much. Does Dubai even have an army? I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. It's all priced in. Yo, mama gets it. Yeah, people are like, oh, was Khamenei killed? No, Khamenei was almost certainly not killed. I guarantee they kept Iran's spiritual and literal leader. They put that dude in the safest safe house. Oh, precious metal markets closed. Oh, I thought they traded around the clock. Thoughts about possible protests over this war. This is another classic, like, here's what's going to happen. There'll be protests. People are like, hey, this war is stupid and pointless. This is Iraq War 2.0, blah, blah, blah. But just like in 03, the government's going to say, oh, what? You want the terrorists to win? Oh, you love Iran? It's like, no, dude, we don't love Iran, but we just want, like, this is just stupid, right? Adam Stickler, thanks for the 5. He says, thoughts on Anthropic. Disturbing they are sacrificing the contract because they think the government will use their tech unethically. Yeah, I understand. So I understand the perspective of both sides on this one. Because Anthropic is like, we can't have AI make kill decisions. And the U.S. military is like, listen, because of jamming, we need drones today that can make kill decisions, that can finish a kill chain in an area with a ton of jamming. We need it to think through a strike problem. And so that is like a core conundrum. Now, instead of like the U.S. military is just like, we don't negotiate. We're never going to negotiate. You do what we want or else, right? And again, generally, the U.S. government is not in the business of like, do what we want or else, especially when it's areas where there's like real easy compromise to be made. Like the compromise, there's so much room for compromise and they just don't want to do it, you know? And that's what kind of annoys me is like, I'm not annoyed. I see why there's conflict, but this is something that could be hammered out with like just adults talking. There's too many opportunities for mutual wins. Anthropic needs to justify money to their investors. It absolutely just makes so much, the mutual wins are too great. They'll come to an agreement. But the Pentagon, the fact that they are like children where they encounter any resistance and they go, no, I'm never going to do it. I'll never do this. You're like, come on, guys, let's grow up here. Let's grow up here, you know? And I think that's my real concern with all of this. It's just like the Pentagon is just, they're just such assholes to everybody. It's the same thing with the Pentagon shooting down a CBP drone. It's the same thing with the Pentagon and CBP getting mad at the FAA. Like, they just don't understand what it means to like collaborate or coordinate. The DOD, this leadership in the DOD is just like, we're defending the country. What do you mean we can't do this? And they're like, yeah, but defending the country from what? Yeah, it's like the actual act of governing is hard. Like, that's the thing that no one wants to understand is that like if you want to run even a single department in this country, you need to be a true expert. And it's at least as hard as being like a doctor. So if you would trust someone with the same background to do your surgery, to treat your cancer, or treat your mom's cancer, then have at it, right? But like, if you understand intuitively that the doctor who should treat your parents' cancer or heart disease or whatever, you're like, hey, I want them to have gone to medical school. I want them to have completed a residency. I want them to have practiced for several years before they see my mom. You're like, okay. Like, why would you not want that in your government leadership, right? I'm not saying they have to believe what you believe, but, or they have to all like, be the swamp hive mind or whatever they allege. But like, you've got to sit there and you want people who have the experience and qualifications. And we intuitively understand that when it's our health and welfare, but somehow we don't, we just give people a pass who we just give people a pass. And again, like serving in Congress is a great example of that's why so many of them go, hey, you spent a decade on the Senate Intelligence Committee. You probably wouldn't be a bad person to head the ODNI, right? Okay, Hector Moira. Will China take Taiwan because of this war with Iran, or will they see this as a trap and be wary? Again, we sort of talked about this already earlier in the stream, but ultimately, China is less ready than the US is. Like, it would be an opportunity for a more ready China. But that's not the China we have. Remember, Xi just weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago, purged his CMC. There's now one person on the Chinese equivalent to the chairman or one person on the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Xi Jinping himself. So that, I think, is the real problem here. Is that, again, like China, you can't just invade Taiwan like that. And they may not invade Taiwan. I think more likely is like a blockade of Taiwan and like a gradual tightening of the noose, because that's harder for the United States and its allies to like mobilize a response to, right? And I think the Chinese, again, are open to other strategies like electing a pro-China party or some kind of election manipulation or some kind of backing of a pro-China faction within Taiwan. Like, there's lots of other options I think China views as being better than like a full-scale, high-drama invasion. Hey, Santhian Moon, thanks for becoming a specialist. I really appreciate it. Yeah, people like an army of plumbers. But again, look at like a plumber, right? Who would you want to do plumbing work on your house, like a real extensive plumbing work? Would you want someone with a Pete Hegseth type of qualification, right? You know, what, 3 to 5 years, right? A basic officer course, 2 deployments at the small unit level, and then the rest of the time as a commentator for Fox News, never leading an organization at all, and then suddenly he's jumped to the top, right? You would never want that. You'd want to say, hey, listen, I don't want a plumber that just like goes, okay, I learned how to fix a sink, and then, I have like, okay, I learned how to fix a sink, I got the basics down, and now suddenly I'm going to do all the plumbing in your like apartment building. You're like, I don't know, man. I think you need a little more experience. Okay, Sky Harbor, my friend is obsessed with silver. Why? Because people get obsessed with investment vehicles that they see going up. They believe that there's a chance to make a lot of money. And when people have an opportunity to make money, they suddenly give it an ideological bend, right? They say, no, it's silver is a empowering me against the man or whatever. They're like, listen, dude, you just want to make money. Okay, Matt Vampire, thanks for becoming a member. And you, all the people, really can't do anything about the tyrannical PDF file bully you put in power. Not until the midterms. That's how elections work, unfortunately. There are things that our representatives should have done that they did not. Again, the Democratic Party's failed shutdown, I think, really is definitively proves that our representatives are just not interested in fighting. I don't know what else to tell you. It's really embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. Yeah. So the next time that the next set of elections, we're gonna have to, hopefully the American left and center can hopefully put in some people who have a sense of like, hey, Congress has powers and they need to leverage those powers, to keep the executive in check. That's the thing. We elected a president. We didn't elect a king. But again, we didn't expect Congress to just totally be acquiescent. Whoa. Oh, interesting. So the Israeli military says largest airstrike in Air Force history completed. What does that mean? So are they done? Or do they mean... So is this just like a bomb them for no reason type of thing? Right? Iraqi army says 2 airstrikes targeted areas south of Baghdad for the second time today. Iran's Revolutionary Guard said the Strait of Hormuz is de facto closed and highly dangerous. New interceptions reported over Abu Dhabi. Israeli military, largest airstrike in Air Force history completed. And a U.S.-Israeli airstrike hit Zanjan, northwestern Iran. Secondary explosions, likelihood of missile site. U.S.-Israeli aircraft launched extensive airstrikes on Iran. Well, we know that, according to a random source. In Aragon, I condemn Iran's attacks. I condemn the attacks on Iran's sovereignty, which is interesting. That's a NATO ally. Hector Moore, are the Dems likely to continue this war after the midterms? I sure hope not. But again, they may not, because so many Democratic politicians are supported heavily by Israel or by AIPAC. I think it's likely that they are going to probably... I mean, the Democrats have basically squashed even efforts by Thomas Massie and sort of more libertarian Republicans to call a war powers resolution, to make the president say, hey, get our permission. And the fact that that got killed by the Democratic leadership is a sign that the Democrats on some level just want this to happen. Here, why did Israel bomb a school? One, here's what I want to point out. Both Israel and the United States are conducting airstrikes, so we don't know if it was Israel or the United States that targeted a school. But this is an intrinsic problem with an air-only campaign, is that without boots on the ground, it's hard to know exactly what you're hitting. I really believe the U.S. military does not actively try to target schools. But I can't speak to the Israelis. But again, this is something that is just intrinsic to air campaigns. It's just intrinsic to air campaigns, is that you have these things that happen. And it's hard to know, right? You're like, okay, you get a bunch of cell signals, you see a bunch of stuff moving in and out, right? And even if it's as simple as like, hey, the school's next to an Iranian military base because it's a base and kids, they put the base, people that live on the base, their kids go to school there. All this is just a function of an air campaign. And this is why we take war very seriously. This is why it should be taken not lightly. Again, I'm pretty generous. I always assume good faith mistake before I assume systematic targeting of children. If you told me there were 10 schools that were hit, I'd say, hey, I think this is maybe targeting children. Okay. Ton Timtu, do you think there will still be midterms? He's making a lot of moves. He seems unconcerned with how people will vote. I agree, but I never discount stupidity. And this is also what happens when you're surrounded by yes men, is that when the people around you refuse to give you bad news, as we know, Trump very explicitly is like, do not give me bad news. It will make me mad and sad, and I'll sideline you. then people stop giving him bad news. So he believes sincerely that people love him. He believes sincerely that the economy is doing spectacularly. He believes sincerely that that nobody cares about the Epstein files. Nobody, they are only mad at like the Clintons. He's surrounded by yes men. Like that's part of the like delusion. Very common among authoritarians like him. Alex Koshi, how's it going? It's going good. Thanks for the 5 Canadian. Yeah. This is, yeah, those are some weird. Okay, interesting. So this says that Iran launches new barrage of missiles towards Israel, and 2 sources from Reuters were told that Egypt halts gas imports from Israel. I didn't know Israel had gas. Maybe they have refineries that are imported into Egypt. That's really interesting. And a really strange. Hector Moira, thanks for the 5. You feel the U.S. would need to send troops to the Strait of Hormuz blocked, or the regime survives like Assad in Syria? No, we're not going to send troops. It would be really hard. I don't think I think the regime's going to survive. If it survives like Assad in Syria, that would be a fucking nightmare. It would be real. That is my worst case scenario, is a Syria type of situation in Iraq. I think the most likely is, again, the regime, it looks like Venezuela, but the U.S. does a bunch of shit and makes a bunch of videos for social media and high fives itself and uses the words "we won." But the regime remains intact. The regime's objectives remained intact, and the U.S. And the president just moves on to other things that draw his attention. This is Iran.liveuamap.com. If you go to liveuamap.com, you can see a bunch of these. Everything's kind of happening, right? About all major ongoing conflicts. Yes, right. People like don't understand how street smart Trump is. That's how he won 2 elections. Yeah, I think it's almost less like, because he's not smart. Like he has so many unforced errors. I think he's more like just such an instinctive showman. He's such an instinctive showman, and then he has the benefit of outlets, primarily Fox News, that essentially that ignore his mistakes, so they never learn about his mistakes, and reframe all of his errors as strategies, right? I mean, the 5D chess meme, there's so many people who are like, Trump is not smart, right? His former ambassador, John Bolton, his former ambassador / secretary of National Security Advisor, John Bolton, in his first term, has said he's kind of an astrategic idiot. His former chief of staff and later Department of Homeland Security director from his first term, John Kelly, said he is power hungry. It called him a power hungry fascist, which is insane. Again, that's somebody who served with him for years in his first term. Almost every respectable Republican said the man's fucking clueless. His former vice president, Mike Pence, said he was an authoritarian, right? These people are like, so many people are just like, he's so stupid. Again, I think it's primarily the error of the algorithm isn't letting people see his mistakes. And again, like reputation laundering through media outlets like Fox News, and the fact that Trump is a good media personality, like he has media personality instincts. But again, look how many times he contradicts himself. Like, look, he said, look no further than the nuclear program was annihilated. I annihilated Iran's nuclear program, and in the next breath is like Iran's about to have a nuke. Like, that is not 5D chess. I'm sorry, that is just not 5D chess. C. Blake, do you think there's a best case scenario for an air-only campaign? If Iran hunkers down, do they have any effective retaliation options? Well, you're watching the retaliation options right now, which is targeting every U.S. ally and every U.S. base in the region, sort of punishing them. The best case scenario for an air-only campaign, a somewhat degraded Iran, an Iran that's further degraded. Maybe a regime that becomes less combative. I'd love to see the IRGC like become degraded, lose its ability to push proxies. Hector Morris says, Iran won't play ball. How can this be brief? Yeah, easy. Because the U.S. doesn't actually have the capability to achieve the strategic effects it wants to. It realizes that, hey, man, we've bombed every target we know of, and the Iranian regime is intact, and its nuclear program is intact, and then the U.S. goes, okay, well, let's just declare victory and go home. That's, I think, the most likely. Yeah, it's less 5D cognitive chess and more of like a mocha. Like name these animals, draw a clock. Yeah. Okay. So we're coming up on just over an hour. I think maybe I'm gonna pause it there. I might come back on later tonight and do more updates. Again, we're gonna see what is going on. We're gonna learn more as we go. But a huge thank you to you guys. If you want to support me and keep me able to do this, right, I can avoid, I don't have to kowtow to corporate sponsors, primarily because of you guys as members at Combat Vet News. That makes a huge difference when you guys become members there. It is my Patreon equivalent. It is the best way to support what I do. I thank all you guys that have tuned in here. It's a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. And I'll catch you guys probably this evening. We'll probably do an evening update, honestly. So thank you guys. Yeah, stay sane out there, lads. See ya. Cheers.